It's a sunny day in western Washington, and we are spending it by the tracks in Bucoda, along our usual BNSF Seattle Subdivision. There's a good mixture of locomotives today with SD75s and some foreign power, so stick around and let's watch some trains. Good morning. We're back by the tracks again in Bucoda, Washington. I know it's been a while since I've done this. You can mostly thank the rain for that. But the sun's out today and I think we got some good stuff coming, so sit tight. Our first train will be led by a pair of SD75s. While you can see them near daily on the Seattle Subdivision, I'm told they're quite rare outside of the Pacific Northwest. While waiting for the next train, I noticed today's fire danger is very high. Or someone hasn't touched this sign since late summer. Here's another northbound freight train taking oil to the BP refinery in Cherry Point, Washington. Bucoda sits along Highway 507 between Tenino and Centralia. It's a small town, less than 1,000 people if I had to guess. It almost makes Tenino look big. The BNSF tracks run parallel to 507 through the town. That was Amtrak 505 on the Cascade service, the first of 5 Amtrak trains we'll see this morning. Something you might notice in this video and other videos of mine are these speed limit signs with a T. The T is for Talgo train sets. The one that runs along these tracks is named Mount Jefferson. Talgo train sets can tilt when they go through curves and thus can approach curves faster than other trains without risking comfort or safety. Next is a coal train from the Signal Peak mine in Montana heading to British Columbia. Last night's northbound coast Starlight had Amtrak 160 in the lead, which has a special commemorative paint job. I'm hoping on today's southbound coast Starlight it'll be the lead unit, but I don't control the railroad, I just document it. Unfortunately, Amtrak 160 was swapped out of Coast Starlight service that morning. But here's what it looks like. It's my favorite Amtrak locomotive, and I think a lot of other people's too. It's sometimes affectionately known as the Pepsi can. If you've been hearing chickens, it's because there were chickens roaming around me while I was filming. It's one of the things that makes this spot a bit more interesting than others. If you're like me and enjoy getting something to eat or drink while you're out watching trains, Bucoda is a bit limited in options. There's the Liberty Market, but it's closed on Sundays, so your only option might be Joe's Place, which is a bar that's been operating since 1898. And on the subject of food, our next train is carrying grain, but you'll notice it's mostly Canadian Pacific Kansas City equipment. During grain season, Canadian Pacific would interchange entire grain trains to the Union Pacific to be taken to West Coast ports for export. Now the same happens with the recently formed Canadian Pacific Kansas City, so we get former Kansas City Southern power on these trains too. There have not been any CPKC painted locomotives to my knowledge, but some rolling stock has the new logo, like this auto rack I saw in Stillicum. Here comes the Coast Starlight, but without Amtrak 160. It has one of the new ALC 42s at the lead instead. As you saw back there, Amtrak 160 must have been swapped out with one of the new ALC 42s, which I have to admit is a bit disappointing, but I'm the kind of guy that'll take any train over no train. Just after the Coast Starlight comes another grain train interchanged from the CPKC. One thing I learned about Bucoda is despite being a small, dare I say tiny town, Halloween is a big deal here, and it might be interesting to check it out again in October. Our last two trains today, a southbound manifest freight train and a northbound empty garbage train, are going to pass each other here in Bucoda, which I believe is a channel first, and it should be cool to watch. Well, I think I'm gonna pack it up for the day. It's hard to beat a meet like that. We got to see some cool stuff today, including Canadian Pacific leaders and SD-75, so even though we didn't see Amtrak 160, I'm pretty satisfied with how things turned out. And that's Bucoda. There's not much to it. In fact, I feel like there were probably more buildings here at some point in the past, but it's a small, sort of off the beaten path kind of place to watch trains. So if you're looking for new scenery or somewhere where it's a bit more quiet, give Bucoda a visit.